The gospel lesson today is from the Gospel of Matthew. We are in chapter 5. Now, this happens to be one of my favorite passages. It's entitled The Beatitudes. And now when he saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." This is the reading of the word of our Lord. You may be seated. I entitled this message, "What is Your Story?" And it's a simple message. I'm going to tell you a story that relates to each of the Beatitudes, a short story. And I would like you to think about a time in your life when you were in that situation described in the Beatitude. That's how you responded, how you reacted to that. And then I'd like you to kind of think, could I have done that better? Am I satisfied with my response to that? So these little vignettes that I'm going to read to you are, they're supposed to represent responses to these individual Beatitudes. Does your story stand up to the light of Christ? The first one is, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Dr. Walter Erdman wrote a bestseller some years ago entitled "Source of Power in Famous Lives." In it, he gave biographical sketches of 50 great men and women of history. Among them, David Livingstone, Jenny Lind, Clara Barton, Francis Willard, Christopher Columbus, and Oliver Cromwell. Erdman drew this conclusion about the people he had profiled: in their lives, God was a reality. Truly great people share a common source of power. They simply apply that power in different ways. Some have great public success and thus a greater degree of fame and prominence than others. Many less famous people, however, have also encouraged others with stories of personal triumphs and victories. This shows that the power which comes from having a real relationship with God isn't limited to stars. It is an attribute that can be acquired by anyone, regardless of their wealth or position in society. Genuine power from God is manifest as hope in times of disaster, calm in times of crisis, direction when lost, and an enduring faith. Anyone can know this power if they will allow God to become a reality in their lives. What is your story? Number 2, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." By the way, mourning, it means a heart that's loved. That's really what it means. If you didn't love, you wouldn't mourn. The dimensions of love came home to our family as never before on August 27th, 1979, when we were en route to Florida. We had lost a wonderful son when he was 30 years old. Peter had been an athlete all his life. He was a hard-working, clean-living, highly disciplined person, but he died suddenly. Our friends across the country and around the world were wonderfully supportive. Among the pyramid of letters, messages, and telephone calls, I cite one from a friend of 25 years, a highly competent individual, extremely successful in his profession, and a dedicated elder in our denomination. He was in Kentucky at the time, and from his motel room he wrote Sybil and me on a pocket notepad. The quintessence of his message was, I have heard you say everyone has a minister except the minister. And now we want to minister to you. Now, this man is one of the busiest people I know. He flies 50,000 miles a year in his work, not to mention ground transportation, and yet he canceled all appointments and flew to Georgia, where he and his wife stood by us night and day, and eventually drove us on to Florida. Altogether, this was 5 days out of his week. Thus, this, I submit, is suffering. Supportive love. Love is more than what we say and do. It is what we are. What is your story? Number 3, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Now, it's not meekness before men. I want to be clear about that. It's humility before God, right? Humility before God. Grantland Rice was the greatest man I have known, the greatest talent, the greatest gentleman. This is the appraisal of the late Red Smith. Many felt the only thing greater than his talent was his generous heart. Rice was the epitome of courtesy. The story goes that the noted journalist's working pass ticket for the Army Notre Dame football game went astray. Now, this man who virtually created that classic game did not complain. Instead, he went down to Broadway, bought a ticket from a scalper, and watched the game from the stands with his typewriter on his knee. Afterwards, he went to the press box to complete his story. And hearing of the experience, a friend asked, "Why didn't you just throw some weight around?" To tell you the truth, Granny came back, I don't weigh much. What is your story? Number 4, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. James A. Pike died in 1969. His death was dramatic and tragic. During his turbulent lifetime, this controversial person turned from the practice of law to the Christian ministry, from the Roman Catholic Church to Protestantism, from bishop to a church dropout, from alcoholism and chain smoking to abstention. Ironically, death came to this brilliant man while he was researching a new book on the historical Jesus. Wishing to rummage through old bookstalls in Jerusalem and to walk again where Jesus walked, Dr. and Mrs. Pike had gone to the Holy Land in search of information and inspiration. While driving in the desert on a hot August afternoon, they became lost. It was too late. Her 56-year-old husband was dead. A writer for the time reported on the irony of the fact that the Right Reverend James A. Pike, once again on the brink of something new, should perish in the wilderness of the Judean desert looking for Jesus. A friend reacting to the sad story commented, "Yes, and to think he could have found him in California." What is your story? Number 5, blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. The great illustration of mercy is Jesus' parable of the Good Samaritan. He asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" And Jesus replied with an illustration. A Jewish man was traveling on a trip from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes and money, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a Jewish priest came along, but when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. And then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt deep pity. And kneeling beside him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with medicine and bandaged them. And then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn where he took care of him. The next day he handed the innkeeper 2 pieces of silver and told him to take care of the man. And if his bill runs higher than that, he said, I'll pay the difference the next time I am here. Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by bandits? Jesus asked. The man replied, the one who showed him mercy. And then Jesus said, yes, now go and do the same. What is your story? Number 6, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Some years ago, my wife's grandfather was diagnosed by the best physicians as being terminally ill with cancer. The doctors told the family that Grandpa would only have a month or so to live. I prayed about how I should pray for him. God said that I was not to pray for his comfort, but rather to give him a scripture, lay hands upon him, and pray for his healing. I called a friend and asked him to go with me to the hospital and pray for Grandpa's healing. I was simply obedient to what God had told me. A few days later, the doctors discovered that Grandpa didn't have cancer. I called my friend to tell him the good news, and he wasn't at all surprised. It was what he expected. However, when I shared the story with a boss, she responded, well, the doctors must have been wrong in their diagnosis. My friend saw God in the situation, but my boss chose not to see God in the story. Grandpa lived many years thereafter. What is your story? Number 7, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. The Christ of the Andes is an impressive symbol of peace. Once, Chile and Argentina were enemies and fought constantly. At last, they decided it was in their mutual interest to live in peace. So high above their natural boundaries, the Andes, they erected a marvelous statue of Christ with outstretched arms. And the inscription reads, Sooner shall these mountains crumble into dust than the Argentines and Chileans break the peace sworn at the feet of Christ the Redeemer. We've all seen pictures of that, right? It's huge. And no, I won't climb up to the top and poke my head out the hatch. I've seen pictures of people that did that. Not a chance. What is your story? And the last one, number 8, blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Legend has it that a wealthy merchant traveling through the Mediterranean world looking for the distinguished Pharisee, Paul, encountered Timothy, who arranged a visit. Now, you might have got confused in there. We'll try it one more time. Legend has it that a wealthy merchant traveling through the Mediterranean world was looking for the distinguished Pharisee, Paul. And instead, he encountered Timothy, who arranged a visit with Paul. Paul was, at the time, a prisoner in Rome. Stepping inside the cell, the merchant was surprised to find a rather old man, physically frail, but whose serenity and magnetism challenged the visitor. They talked for hours. And finally, the merchant left with Paul's blessing. Outside the prison, the concerned man inquired, "What is the secret of this man's power? I have never seen anything like it before." "Did you not guess?" replied Timothy. "Paul is in love." The merchant looked bewildered. "In love?" "Yes," the missionary answered. "Paul is in love with Jesus Christ." The merchant looked even more bewildered. "Is that all?" Smiling, Timothy replied, "That is everything." What is your story? God bless.